Hello, I'm Jo Wiltshire. I'm a parenting author and journalist, and I help parents and families deal with a whole range of issues that could be from the really quite serious concerns to do with eating and sleeping to maybe more light-hearted but aggravating difficulties that they want some good tips and advice on. So really, I never know what I'm going to get because I deal with a large range of queries. But I thought I'd just give you a few varied tips so that you can see the sort of thing that I might deal with. So one tip I've got for you is for dealing with fussy eaters. I get a lot of queries from parents about people whose children have gone through the initial baby phase, they've done weaning, they've got to that kind of toddler, I'm very independent, I know my own mind phase, and the child will either doesn't want to eat or eats from a very, very small selection of acceptable foods. So one of the tips that I give to try and expand a child's range of acceptable foods, and this can work for older children too, is to give them the sense that they are the one in control, even though you are behind the scenes pulling the strings. One way you can do this is to give them some power in actually arranging the food. So for instance, you might go and buy some pizza bases or make your own, but then help them with you to chop up lots of little bits of vegetables, maybe sweet corn, bits of pepper, lots of different nice colourful things that you can put out in bowls, and then let them decorate their own pizza. So they've created it themselves, they're more invested in it, they're more likely to try it, even if they only try one mouthful or one tiny slice of pizza. Equally, for instance, at breakfast, that's another time that children will only stick to one kind of breakfast. A good way is to get out some old Tupperware pots or plastic cups and put a range of foods in there. So it could be some oats, some dried fruit, some chopped up fresh fruit, maybe some yogurt, maybe a little bit of pre-measured milk, and let them lay it all out on the table and let them choose which bits they like the look of to mix into their own little breakfast. And you often find that children will eat far more that way than if you are presenting them with a plate of food that is readily prepared for them. Another tip, I deal a lot with parents who have moved their child into their first big bed. So they're not in a cot anymore, they're not in a baby sleeping bag, and they're kind of free range. And that means that the child is coming out of the bedroom all the time or is waking up incredibly early in the morning, much more early than the parents would like. How do you get them to sleep in to something that is vaguely acceptable to you? Well, one thing that we've had lots of success with is using you can either use a clock radio, or even better is a timer that you would normally use to switch lamps on and off to deter burglars. So you can switch it to a time to come on in the morning and to go off again. And if you start to get them used to the idea that if they wake up and the lamp isn't on or the radio isn't on, then they have to stay there for a little bit longer until it comes on. It starts to become a game for them, and they do quite often stay in the bed and wait for that time to come. So you may set it for 6:30, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, whatever your accepted time is, and it becomes a game for them to stay there. And it encourages them, because obviously a child that age can't read a clock generally, doesn't really know what time it is, so it helps them to get a sense of when it is time to get up, and that's been very helpful. So I also get a lot of queries about potty training and how to encourage children to start using the big toilet, and especially boys. So one good tip for helping young boys to get their aim better in the toilet is to actually put a ping pong ball into the toilet bowl and ask them to aim for it. Variations on that theme might include putting coloured ice cubes down, or putting some food dye in there which changes colour when he gets it right. A lot of preschools also put a little sticker at the back of the bowl for a boy to aim on. You will probably need to provide one of the little steps that sits in front of the toilet to give the boy some height. But all of those are good, fun ways of encouraging a bit of target practice and helping your son to become a little bit more considerate in the toilet. Finally, I think one of the big queries I get is, how, when there is so much information out there, we have information overload now because people generally will look on the internet, have books, and TV programs increasingly on parenting as well. How, with all that information out there, do you find what's right? How do you know which piece of advice to take? How do you know which way to go? And what I would say to that is that learning to be a good parent is not about subscribing to one particular theory or following one particular parenting guru or finding the answer. It's about finding your own inner confidence. And the way that you can do that is to take things slowly, to look at your own family and how things work with you, your children, your circumstances, your jobs, what you like to do, and learn to hear your instinct again, because I think as parents in recent decades we've lost that ability to hear the instinct that previous generations used to rely on. And as a parent expert and helper, that is what I encourage my families to do, is to be able to hear what's important to them again, to find what's right for them, to discover their own answers and become their own experts.